everybody. Some action there. That clip I just ran is a little montage of spindle crashes, which is what we're here at the Setco GTI channel to discuss today, is what to do after a crash. You know, what do I do to know whether my spindle and machine is okay? And we're going to go over that today. So welcome back to the channel. We appreciate your viewing. Please like and subscribe. We're going to be doing these videos weekly, so they will be very educational. What I have set up here is a spindle, so it's not in the machine, but as you can tell, I do have it set up so that we're going to be able to know exactly what to do to check a spindle after a crash, to exactly know whether we've damaged the bearings, bent the shaft, or done any damage. So I'm going to move my microphone with me so that we can make sure the audio for you folks is okay. But what I've got set up here, and the number one thing, I obviously have Vipro 10 running on the side here as well, but what I've got set up is a dial indicator. And as you notice, I'm actually hooked up to the spindle itself. Do not hook up to the bed of the machine. Make sure your indicator's on the spindle and not on the bed of the machine, because we can get interference between the two. And then we simply just rotate the spindle, and if the indicator does not move a tenth or more, we know that we haven't damaged the shaft in any way, at least the taper interface. On HSK, we want to do the face as well to know that we haven't done anything to the face on that end as well. Now, further on, I'm going to get into two vibration scenarios here. Okay, folks, now we're going to actually click into some data here on Vipro 10 so we can see what a crash spindle looks like in two scenarios. One, a bent shaft, and two, damaged bearings. And I'm going to show you the difference between the spectrums. But before I do, let's look at the spindle we were just looking at here. And notice I'm pointing at this little red dot on the side of our sensor. And what that dot represents is our channel 2, our axial direction, the data that we're getting in line with the shaft and the axial direction. I'll explain why that matters. Now, the magnet down here obviously represents our radial data, where we get imbalance and things like that, and we measure our bearings. But without any further ado, let's get right into a spectrum here and see what we're looking at. And you can see I've got one large peak here. I don't see any bearing frequencies out here at all. And I'm in the green by ISO standards for spindles, which is okay. We're in the green. But let's go and click on channel 2. If you notice, this is channel 1 I'm looking at right now. And we're going to click over to channel 2 and see that same data. Now, that same data set, you see now I'm on channel 2. And now we're represented in the yellow, a little high in the yellow, by ISO standards. And it's all at this running speed peak, and that is channel 2, which is what we mentioned before, the axial direction. So what means and what's happening here is channel 2 is giving us more energy in the axial direction rather than the radial direction. And what that usually represents is looseness, or in this case, a bent shaft. And it proved to be true. So this is how we can use this data to represent exactly what's going on with the spindle with just a simple measurement with Vipro 10. So what we're looking at in the graph as a whole here, this bottom is what's called the spectrum, which tells us that this is the running speed peak at this 3,252 RPM. And up top here is our waveform. And you can see we're at about a half a G. That's the impacting from the bearings and all that. We don't see much bearing issues at this point. But with this bent shaft, there's one of two things. We can either live with this bent shaft if we're still getting our surface finish values that we want, or we can address it. But right now, we do not have any bearing damage from this crash. But I'm going to dive into the second spindle, which you're going to see is a completely different representation here. You see here, my 1 times running speed peak is, fairly low. But as you can see, I'm in the yellow. Where are my high peaks? All in this bearing frequency area here. And if you look at my waveform up here, look at that. We're pushing, probably 5 to 10 Gs of energy of impacting, which is telling me not only from the frequencies I see in the spectrum here, because we're in velocity. If I were to go to acceleration, I would even get a higher value at these bearing defect frequencies. But it's clearly showing us by ISO specifications over here, we're pushing an overall of almost 2.5 Gs and peaking at, close to 10 Gs. We've obviously damaged the bearings. And you can see I have my cursor over here in the green, and that's representing this 9,580 CPM that we're running this spindle at, where if I go to the next photo here, it's going to show you, I've now moved my cursor over here. These peaks are 10 and 20 times running speed, depending on which one we pick on. You can see the number out here. It's almost 106,000 CPM is where these tall peaks are, which are generally bearing defect frequencies. So as you can see, between these two spectrums, we clearly can tell whether we have a bearing issue or a bent shaft, or in another case, imbalance, if that were the case. But that's how we use the Vipro 10 and the analyzer to do this. Just takes maybe 5 minutes to set up, put the sensor on the spindle with that red dot facing the axial direction, and we get this data. Now, if you don't understand the data, that's fine too. You can simply hit the report button, hit email, and that data comes to us, and we can look at it and tell you exactly what we see and what your problem is, and whether the spindle's going to be able to go back into production, or in this last case, with that bearing damage, failure is going to be imminent, and we probably need to address pulling the spindle and scheduling that. So again, I hope these videos are informational for you. Please hit the like button and subscribe button, and we'll be doing these information videos once a week as promised. And reach out to us at www.gtispindle.com, or you can reach us at 603-669-5993. Thank you, and have a good week.